Oh, before we start, I was just going to say I like the new maps. They're much easier to read. And online they're easier to...
Yeah, I'll pass that on to Molly.
It is a nice map.
Chris, we're live.
Okay, well, as I said, are we waiting for Joe, or we just go ahead and start?
He's coming.
Trying to get his stuff and get here.
There he is.
It's not a party without you.
Yeah. That's what I've been told. Sorry.
All right, we have a roll call.
Chris,
Here.
Tom,
Yep.
Nancy,
Here.
Richard,
Here.
Dave,
Here.
Otis.
Here.
Okay, previous meeting's minutes. Apparently there is an amendment that in the roll call, it's listing Otis, but he wasn't here. So we need to make that amendment to remove Otis from the roll call. Is there a motion to approve the minutes with the amendment?
I so move.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Do we have any amendments to the agenda for today's meeting?
I would like to just maybe I can do it under discussion items.
Okay.
I'd just like to make a brief response to yesterday's council meeting.
Okay. Okay, I'll add that in there. With that amendment, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
There's no move.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to the public hearing, we have a public hearing for an application from Gerhardt and Audrey Samuelson for a minor subdivision at 1204 and 1206 North Nordic Drive. We have a motion to open the public hearing.
There's no move.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Do we have anybody here who wishes to comment on the Samuelson minor subdivision?
Here's what the final plat looks like right here. What this plat did basically was take this line right here, this dotted line here, put a angle point or a hinge point there, and swing it over to here.
Was it?
Looks real
was it
simple.
5 feet? How much did it gain there?
Yeah, about 5 feet.
About
It
5
just kind of evened these two frontages up.
Okay.
That's all it did.
Do we have anybody else who wishes to comment?
I make a motion that we close the public hearing and Samuelson minor subdivision.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to a public hearing application for Jeff McFadden of a minor subdivision at 129 Kings Row. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have anybody here to comment?
This is another fairly simple subdivision. Lot 31 was the KRSA relay station. They took that out, and Jeff McFadden and Chris Marshall and his partner Carissa Garner, they are splitting 31 between them and creating two new lots, 29A and 33A.
Two larger lots.
Two larger lots, yep.
Okay. Do we have anybody else who wishes to comment? If there's no additional comments, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I so move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to a public hearing for an application from Casey Flint for a minor subdivision at 215 Mitkoff Highway. There's a motion to open public hearing.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Open public comments.
You want to just sit up here?
Nacho, sit down.
You guys got the toughest job in this town, that's all I can say. Yeah, this chunk of land here is owned by Albie and Melinda Hofstede. This little corner was taken off when the Scow Bay bypass road went through here and took off this corner. And you know, also created access for that corner. They are selling this part to Casey Flint, and they're keeping this part. There was a bunch of fill on this property, and they wanted to contain that fill, you know, with this line. So that's why that line is there. And then this is kind of like a flag lot, because in the future, a road will come in here and probably curve and go down the middle of the property. And I'm not sure what Casey's plans are in the future. He can tell you, he's right here. And, you know, and there'll probably be lots developed in the future there.
I have a question concerning this lot. I understand there's a ravine running across that lot.
Not a ravine, it's a stream.
Okay, and whereabouts does that run?
The stream kind of comes through here and wanders through the lot and comes out over here.
Okay.
So it just kind of goes through this whole thing here.
So it's kind of on a, kind of on a.
Yeah, kind of on a diagonal. It's really close to the property line right here. That's
Okay.
why that monument is witnessed back from the line.
Okay.
So it kind of wanders through here. And I've got a kind of a plot. But yeah, when
General
this road,
plot of where it is?
and
Okay.
when this road comes through, of course, they're going to have to culvert across. It's not a ravine. It's actually,
Okay.
it's a fairly flat area.
Okay.
And,
Does that have a Corps of Engineers permit to?
well, no development's happening at this time, so
Yeah.
no permits is needed. But when, you know, development or construction happens, then they'll have to get a permit.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking about this is the fact that this lot has multiple zonings within the lot. And it would be kind of nice to maintain zoning, but it's also would be kind of nice to have one zoning per lot. So if we're going to talk about that, we want to make sure having the mobile home park zoning on this side provides a buffer from the industrial on this side
Right.
to the residential on this side. And if they're going to in the future subdivide this, it might make a good idea to kind of have the zoning match where they might subdivide.
Well, I'll let you
Yeah, that's just for
talk to.
planning commission's discussion.
I don't know what you guys are talking about zoning.
If I could just comment to the
Yes.
zoning right now. If we did nothing with the zoning right now until I decide to further subdivide and figure out what I actually want to do there, I think it would be a little more beneficial. I don't have any particular plans for development. I won't own the property for quite some time. But I'm in the process of buying it as it was originally platted on the map there, so
Yeah.
I think any change of zoning right now is sort of detrimental to my sale. My immediate plan is, this is where Rockies Marine is right now. My immediate plan is just parking area for more boats, just room to do business. That's that was the whole goal of buying this, but obviously Albert and Melinda didn't want to just sell a little piece. They wanted to get rid of everything they didn't need, so here I am.
Yeah, I think our concern is to, it's kind of very strange to have multiple zonings within a lot.
I agree.
And so we want to maintain some sort of buffer against the neighbors here so that it doesn't cause a real problem.
No, I understand that, and I've talked to Forrest here, and, this is zone single family right now, and I can't see being able to do anything with this anyway because of that creek.
Yeah.
But obviously I'd be respectful of all the neighbors when I did decide to re-subdivide. I just don't have any resources to do anything with the rest of this right now, so all I need to do is fill back here.
And Liz, you said there was a concern with the fact, with this subdividing, it makes the mobile home park too small of a chunk of zoning to really,
Right.
Not
they just-
developable.
yeah.
It's not developable as a mobile home park right now.
as a mobile home park, yeah.
So, but if he has to come back and, can't do a mobile home park,
You'd have to
I just think we need to address, we just need to
Yeah.
address
It's
the
gonna be
concerns of how we're going to handle this in the future
Right.
now, so that way we're not setting up a problem for future planning commissions.
I guess the thing is, he's
Yeah.
gonna have to come back no matter.
I'm gonna have to
Right.
re-subdivide this before
Yeah.
I did anything else, so,
Yeah.
and taking into consideration the minimum lot size for mobile home park makes sense if I'm gonna go that route.
Yeah.
But changing what's there would make it harder to come back later if that was the way I wanted to go.
Yeah.
Could I ask a question, Liz?
Go.
Yeah, what is, if Casey or whoever owned the property in the future wanted to turn it into a mobile home park, the entire deal, since it's, can you put mobile homes on industrial
With a conditional use permit.
with a conditional use permit? So he wouldn't be obstructed from doing that. And all we're talking about today is he's just putting one boundary line across, creating a lot, making a lot 3 and a lot 4. That's
Lot 1, 2,
1, 2,
3.
3, and 4, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
Out of the whole deal, okay.
Yeah, today you're just doing the subdivision and.
One more quick question for you. Let's look at this zoning on here real quick. What if we were to eliminate this piece of single-family zoning and make that just all mobile home park and leave the rest industrial? At this point, what do you think of that idea, Liz? And that way, at least it's just down to 2 zonings within that lot 3.
We also fixed lot 4 at the time.
What?
Can we fix lot 4 too?
Taking off a lot
Take
for
it
it
off.
right there.
Yeah.
That's fine with me. I don't want
Yeah.
to lose the potential for a mobile home park. Not that I necessarily want to do that, but
I'm
think
trying to
it-
simplify things for us,
I
less,
appreciate that.
less zoning.
I just think if you take it
Issues.
away and then you come back in a few years and try and bring it back,
It's more, yeah.
What do you think of
That-
that?
I think that's fine, that way half the lot, you're up against industrial and
Yeah,
it's fine, and then you may not do anything with that part, but
Yeah.
then you kind of know that that's sort of a residential type
right.
development's the only kind of thing that's gonna work there for right now.
well, in that one little corner that would be changing from single-family to mobile home park, you see the stream runs through there anyway, so nobody's going to be able to do much with it anyway.
I'm not sure that it still gives you the minimum.
Yeah, but it's this piece here. that
I'm
we-
asking.
You'd have to come back.
This is a single-family.
You're not changing this one?
This, we leave that as a single-family
Okay,
lot.
okay, that's
It's
what.
just
Stretch
this,
this down and
just in lot 3.
Everybody on that lot.
Mobile home
Leave
park.
those two lots right there.
This is Forest Cole and this is, I think the Tomsky's.
I know.
on that.
You gotta go to the comments? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're already abutting an industrial and a mobile home anyways.
Okay, right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Chris, the only thing I would say is that the process, we've gone through rezones before, so it's,
Yeah,
the whole public hearing and
Right.
letters and going to the assembly, and
yeah.
I'm
Would it
not
be
sure
simpler
you're.
now to just not?
Yeah, I just,
Well, it's always simpler not to do.
I'm just thinking just to
Yeah, no,
to
just so
try
you
to
know that
simplify if that's the
You
direction we want to
open up
go.
the-
Yeah,
We go down that road and then
Yeah.
we're going all the way,
yeah, so it's, well,
whether it's worth,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna ask Joe what you think of it.
Well, Liz and I have talked about it quite a bit, and it's, like I said, it's always easier to do nothing.
Yeah.
And what she just brought up, for that little change, in order for any development to happen there, he's gonna have to do
Yeah,
something. Is it worth the time and the effort to try to go through the process of rezoning that little chunk right now? And that's,
Well, yeah,
I mean,
Question.
it's a good question,
yeah.
yeah.
I would think if he had a development plan, he was saying, I'm gonna put a mobile park here, I'm gonna turn that into industrial, I'm gonna do this and this and this, maybe we could go down that route, but maybe since,
Yeah.
Casey, since you don't know what you're doing, let's just do this, and then, since it's gonna be a whole process, if you wanna do something different in the future, then we can deal with that. Hopefully I'm not wrong.
Yeah, well, the way it sits right now, and he talked to the neighbors came in here, the only immediate neighbors here in this instance that are getting affected are single-family mobile home abuts, or in a single-family abuts them, the Coles and the
Latumskis.
Latumskis. Both their lots, right now, the way it sits, their neighbor is single-family. Although Latumskis already face an industrial lot in Charles Davis there, but that happened. So I believe the neighbors at the time, they didn't make any comments, or we got no comments from them, other than the Coles coming in and saying they were relieved that that was going to stay single family. That's the only real comments we've got from neighbors at this point.
So if we approve this right now, Lot 2 would remain a single family, Lot 1 would be industrial, and then
Lot 3 would
Lot 3 would be a
be
buy.
Patrick will,
Yeah,
I think we could maybe scoot that weird line over in Lot 3 to where it comes down the driveway. Actually straighten that out maybe, I don't know, and make that all industrial, but
does that make any difference if
not
it's
really.
right
but
away?
So
I
that-
just do
so that
without having
driveway-
to go through zoning
Yeah.
change, because we have a little bit of flexibility in
That driveway, you're saying make the driveway industrial,
Industrial,
but
yeah.
the
So any-
little other piece up there, leave that as, yeah.
I could only do a little bit. I only have so much leeway in the
Yeah.
code.
is there any difference with a right-of-way, whether it's industrial or residential, doesn't matter?
It just
You can drive your
colors
truck
it.
down
It's
either
just
one.
like a coloring thing,
Changes the
color.
you know?
Changes the color on the map. Okay.
Yeah, just
Yeah, so
just stay
the
inside the
Cleans it up a
line.
little bit.
Yeah, she's always one of those that like coloring.
Inside the line.
Yeah.
But it might even look weirder if I do that.
Are there any other public comments? Yes.
We have Etcher subdivision, it's all commercial, industrial, and my mother's residence there. There's a 25-foot easement and right-of-way on our side, and I was always under the assumption all these years that there was another 25 feet for a city street that it's named after and everything, and, but I'm finding out, no, there isn't on that side.
Liz?
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
It's just the
Yeah.
125 foot, so that's another reason Carl doesn't like to talk about it. He never mentioned that, but anyhow. Just an interesting feature is the only thing I had about. I was curious if there was or wasn't, is all.
As far as we know, and Rick, you surveyed, there's no
Yeah.
easement on the,
Yeah, I don't know why,
How come that works out?
why it was only one half there. I don't remember, that was a long time ago. When was that? The Etcher subdivision?
I don't know when it was done.
Well, it's
It was
done in
85.
88.
We got it
88, yeah.
Back in 88.
Put some more
I don't know, I mean, it'd be pretty hard to take 25 off of
that wrong.
Rocky's tract here.
Yeah.
And this is really steep back, I mean, it's a big drop off right
Yeah.
along here, off into this creek here. I'm not sure what, but it would be kind of impractical really to widen that thing right now, just almost impossible.
Yeah, the sewer and water goes right down the middle of that 25 feet, and the power lines all go down the middle of that 25 feet. Plus, we still got to maintain access for everybody that buys property back there. But that's been pretty easy. I mean, everybody works well together. And it's just a curious question I had since I was,
Yeah, it is
Asked you.
interesting, but it really wouldn't work to widen it to a 50-foot wide road there because just of the terrain, and it's not going to work for
so.
Rockies Marine.
Well,
The-
somebody could come up with a big pile of cash, and then they could go ahead and cut one right through there.
Yeah, well, I'm considering, because the power line is right dead center in that 25 feet on most of it from my son's house back to Harold's. It's 18, 16 feet into that from the property monuments, that the power line just wandered farther in clear to Harold's. The power line anyway.
That just kind of following the creek, though. I mean,
It was kind of following the Philip
avoiding the
case many years
Yeah.
ago when they put
I'm
that
not
in.
sure how the politics of it works, really, because I think when this plat that he's buying from Hofstede's done was just raw property back in the day. It's probably older than 88 when he did the extra subdivision. Usually when you subdivide, you gotta have some sort of easement when you subdivide into properties. But right now, you're just keeping it one chunk of
Yeah.
raw land, so there's nothing forcing him to do the easement. Which will come in another date when he does subdivide that lot 3. Because he has a 50-foot right-of-way to access that property, which is street legal. So I don't know how the politics work for the city to buy that and another 50-foot piece and a 25-foot piece to take over that and make that a city-certified road. Because the way we come up now between Rocky's 2 buildings, it's only we're on a 25-foot easement, so there's no way we can legally put a city road access there. So would it make sense to come up and go behind the shop with a 50-foot road, and then you can block that off and stop all that back traffic past your shop?
But that would have
Yeah.
no need to, that's customer access.
Well, I mean, no, it's customer access for you only, but like where Shirley's house is, then you can block that part of the road off back here in the future. I'm not saying right now, but.
I believe by me initially not blocking that off, I have allowed easement clear through it to anybody that's
Yeah.
beyond. So
Yeah.
that's the legality of that now.
Right, and that's where it is, but I mean, someday when he does subdivide that from mobile home park or whatever, you block the road off here right by Shirley's and just use that for your shop access only. So the only traffic you'd have coming up there would only be for your personal shop. You'd stop all the trailers and drop off and trucks coming right between the buildings in the future.
We would still have to have road access
Yeah.
to the subdivision, so I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
That's not an issue.
throwing that out there.
I was just curious about it, if there was another 25 feet.
Well, I think it could be addressed when that's
Yeah.
subdivided, lot 3 is subdivided.
Affirmative. No, that was my
So-
only question about how all this worked, and we
Yeah.
talked to, the city doesn't want to move the power line over that they have in there now, and I paid for part of that extension when I first moved back there, but
Was right there to the,
they didn't even go near the property line, is what I was curious about it.
take that little bit off.
And the water and the hydrants are
If
10 feet
you took
inside.
this little one off, that they would.
You have any?
I was just gonna say, if, in the future for that lot, for the right-of-way, in order for the city to accept it, they would have to build that to borough road standards. It's not that it's 50 feet necessarily, that's part of it, but the other part of it is that the developer built it to borough construction standards, and then the borough would accept it for maintenance and plowing, so it's more than just the size of.
Is that?
So right now, it's a private driveway,
Yeah.
and that's all it is.
Yeah,
Get access there.
Answer my question.
even though it's listed as a road.
It's not listed as a right-of-way or anything, it's just
Okay.
It's just space
a
on
driveway.
Yeah.
And it
Okay.
shows, and I think it shows intent that they're gonna be able to provide access to anything that they subdivide up there, so they've got
Okay.
access to the highway.
Yeah,
Through here,
Right.
yeah. Not through here.
Right, because if they wanted to divide that lot in half, obviously the lots over here are gonna need access somewhere else through,
So
unless they're gonna cut
there's
through,
another City street on the other side of Rockies that goes up, and that access is from that side then, Keith?
It's not a city street,
Oh,
it's just planned space. If I want to access back there, I have room to make a road without interfering.
yeah, it's,
Like, I don't know if there.
if you look, they've got access here to this lot 3 and the 2 small
The
lots.
city and the borough want to develop to city and borough standards, the 225, to make a 50-foot access. They want the property owners to put the money in and build it and then turn it over to the city and the borough.
That never
No,
happened.
they don't
If
do
he, if he was to plan development back
Yeah.
here, they would have to come forth with some sort of plans to upgrade that, and make the utilities and everything come through here that would service whatever he was gonna do back there at that time. It wouldn't come from this side.
Yeah,
There's
any
hydrants
future
clear
development
up
is not
to
going to be.
lot 3 and 4 there
Lions
at
Road.
your subdivision,
Yeah.
and that would
Yeah.
service, if there was a trailer park somewhere in there, that would service that side as well.
Over here.
You know, at this time, if somebody had a subdivision or something there in the future, I mean, that could and probably would, short of putting another water and sewer line in up there. But I don't know how that works with the city and the borough. Just
Or would they come in from
curious,
Erickson's side?
curious question. Yeah, but they'd have to lay more sewer and water in to come in from that side.
With sewer and water for this lot would come up through that way.
Probably. I think that's what Carl was recommending, because
Yeah.
it's just the main lines are right there.
Yeah.
There's an 8-inch sewer stub at lot 2 that would work for
the whole place.
going up
Yeah.
there. And the water's already on that side of the road.
Just, no, that's my only question about that easement thing and how that worked. Been wanting to ask that for a long time. What it consisted of and what the city and borough's views were, I hadn't got everybody together. Okay, no.
Do we have any further comments or questions or anything else? Any discussion before we close public hearing? From the commission? Do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I so moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any visitors' views related to agenda items? Do we have any visitors' views unrelated to agenda items?
For the one question, did you do the McFadden one already?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so.
Public
You
hearing.
told me it was at 10 o'clock, so we came at 10.
Yeah.
But
They went wrong with it.
what is Jeff planning to do with his property there since I missed that?
We've got it right here. Take a look.
Pretty much nothing other than splitting it with Chris Marshall.
Yeah.
The lot between them.
Rick, you want to explain what's
They
going
just took a lot between them and split it. Chris took half of it, Jeff took half of it.
Oh, I see. So here they're just moving this lot line over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're both
So
by a
that-
chunk of it?
Right, so
Yeah, they're just
so they
splitting that lot
don't get
in
any
between.
neighbors between them is what Jeff
I
said.
see. Okay.
That's all they want. They want to protect getting somebody between them.
So,
Didn't know what his vision was.
do we have any report of staff members? Liz, anything that's
Anything exciting?
exciting?
I did get an email from DOT Airport saying that they have made an offer and it's in the mail, but I haven't gotten a letter yet, so I don't know what it
Okay.
is. But I'll let you know. They just sort of went ahead and came up with some number, so I don't know what that number is. We'll let you know. What is it? Also,
Something about airport?
the transportation, they want to purchase that little piece by, at the corner of Sandy Beach and Hagen Drive.
They don't have enough
They didn't make a big enough
in their approach area.
zone there, and so there's a parcel there that they want to buy a portion of.
3 acres.
And under the state patent that the borough received, or the city received, it can only be used for public
Must be a
recreation.
mistake they made when they built that, along with many others.
Well, they're fixing it now, I guess. So anyway, we've been going back and forth with them about
Nobody said
buying
anything
it.
about that problem, just a lot of other ones with the whole construction thing. I'll leave that alone for now.
We told them we wanted a little chunk of property across from the airport.
From the terminal.
In exchange for it.
Airport leasing owns that, and they're pretty stringent. They wouldn't even give us any for the fire hall when we asked for a piece down there. I found that amazing because
We're just trying to convince them to build us a parking lot or something up there.
I agree, and I've gone over leasing. I've taken pictures of the parking lots, and that's an issue that I'm very adamant about as well.
Well, our
They don't
intent was-
listen to me.
Our intent was to trade that 3 acres for 3 acres of
Oh,
parks.
that's a good
We
idea.
tried that, but that has failed. That was the idea.
Trading.
They wanted us to give
I'd
them.
like to hear how that comes out.
Yeah,
I
well,
can tell you, not so well.
not so well.
Not so well, unfortunately.
The only other thing is the assembly did approve your letter to the Forest Service, and that got submitted on time even to the Forest
Wow,
Service.
great.
Yeah,
Thanks, Liz.
sure.
Thank you.
And you're going to talk about comp plans? Is that what you were going to talk about under discussion items?
Yeah, unless you know.
No, it's okay. You can save it to then. That's fine.
Okay, if there's no other reports, should we move on to unfinished business? Consideration of an application for Geinhardt and Audrey Samuelson for a minor subdivision at 1204, 1206 North Nordic Drive. Do we have a motion to accept subdivision?
So moved.
We have a second?
I second it.
Discussion? Seeing there's no discussion, do we have a,
I'll make a motion to accept the findings of fact that staff has attached to this.
And that's excellent, Dave. You actually don't have to approve findings of fact, but I think it's a good policy, just to.
Okay.
But I appreciate that you thought of that.
Did you read them?
I don't know, but.
No, I did read them.
I did.
Yeah. Even though I did go to school in Texas, I didn't learn how to read.
Do you have a second?
Second.
There was I think it was Richard and Dave.
But I thought it was on the findings of fact, or do we not need to do that?
You don't have to.
Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Yeah, Samuelson subdivision passes. Moving on to a consideration of an application for Jeff McFadden, minor subdivision at 129 Kings Road. Do we have a motion to?
I'll make a motion to accept it and the findings of fact.
No second.
Any discussion? Since there's no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on, it passes. Moving on to a consideration of an application from Casey Flint for a minor subdivision at 1215 Midcom Highway. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
I think it's fine just to not mess with the zoning.
I think it's fine, but I think we should state in there that, that there is a zoning issue that must be addressed before it is subdivided.
Okay.
Yes.
But that doesn't prevent Casey or the Flints from right now, if they want to,
From utilizing,
from building a parking lot and extending
Yeah.
the parking lot right now,
It
right?
could be something like before they can convey any lots, you know, they're going
Yeah.
to have, they can't convey anything in there without coming
Yeah.
back anyway, so.
yeah. But I just think it should be,
Mental note for all
it
of
should
us, I
be
guess.
worded in there somewhere just so that it's, reminds people it needs to be dealt with. Any other discussion?
So just a question.
Yeah.
As it is zoned different, do we have to go up there if they want to do something in the mobile home park area, put a mobile home there? Do we have to go measure to make sure it's in that square?
Well, it's not big enough for a mobile home park.
So they
No,
can't
no.
really,
But they could put a mobile home there, couldn't they? One.
Well,
I'm just saying.
if it's zoned,
Yeah, I mean, I could think
if
of it,
it's,
yeah.
okay, if it's zoned industrial, they can put a mobile home there.
they just gotta get a conditional use permit.
Conditional use permit. And if they want to put a mobile home where the mobile home designation is, then they just have to get they don't have to get a permit. Okay.
But you gotta go out there and measure.
Yeah, I think you'd have to go out there and measure.
This is where the drone comes in.
Yeah, the drone. Not gonna get me a helicopter? Get me a drone.
I think you're right, yeah, we'd have to kind of do our best guess on a site plan and where wherever the mobile home area.
Yeah, we'll deal with that.
Well, wouldn't they have to do a site plan anyway?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so.
And then we'll just send Joe out there and he can find them.
Pretty many trees out there.
Pretty many.
Pretty many.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on to new business. Acceptance and scheduling of an application from Brenda and Lad Norheim and Pam and John Jensen for a minor subdivision at 716 Sandy Beach Road. We have a motion to accept this for a public hearing.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to discussion items. Dave?
Yes, thank you. I don't know if you guys all heard the meeting that I did. I know you did because you're aware, Joe.
I was in the window.
You were there in school.
I was at the door a lot of times.
Oh.
I wasn't going to venture.
But I did, after there was quite a few comments criticizing our lack of public involvement and stuff, I realized we had it available. And then, so at the meeting, I announced that, and I believe Harold has taken us up on that offer. And sent a letter to the mayor, so he's chosen to enjoy us.
All right.
Do you have flight credentials for the Black helicopter? No. I think a lot of comments that were made, I think, were uninformed, is basically what it was, and what our intent was. And I guess I'll just say for the record right now what my intent is, because I was actually obliquely named in one letter. Would like to say that I supported the formation of the borough, that's no secret. The main reason why I supported the formation of the borough is that we have a resource-based economy. And I feel it's very important that locally we have some say over what happens in our backyard. And my main concern is, and has always been, the extraterritorial land that surrounds us. And by that I mean the mental health land and the University of Alaska land. And I've seen over the last 10 to 15 years repeated times where we've run into conflict with those two agencies because they do not want to communicate with us. They don't even want to respond to us a lot of times. And at least by being a borough and having zoning, or excuse me, planning, not zoning, we can have some impact on what happens to that property out the road. And I'll just say right now, I own property out in Keene Channel. I used to own property in Duncan. I own property at Patke's. And I never have, and for the foreseeable future will not support any type of zoning that we impose upon people in town out the road. I don't think that the zoning restrictions of Service Area 1 will be appropriate out the road. And I agreed with a lot of people's comments when they said that before anything happens, they want to have input in it. I agree with that 100%. And I think that's the intent of the Assembly. That's what I understood was their intent. That said, I think as a board, we should look sooner than later at some sort of major subdivision restriction outside of Service Area 1, not aimed at a person that's got a 1 acre lot and he wants to divide it in half, but for any major subdivisions, i.e. Proposals that are coming down right now from the university and mental health. I think an easy place to start would be to propose 1 acre, minimum 1 acre lot sizes when they make their original subdivisions, and that those subdivisions should have to come through the borough for plating authority. What that does is it just solves problems 20 years down the line. I'm not proposing that if a guy out of Pappy's who's got a 1 acre lot, which I did, divided in half, and many years ago, that authority be on that level, but just basically aimed at like the bigger, larger entities. I don't know what the appropriate acreage size, of course, this would have to go through the assembly. I don't know, maybe 5 acres is a good place to start, or 20 acres, I don't know. But that's just something for us all to think about, I think. And I just want to put it on record that I never supported and never thought that we needed to have serious zoning restrictions or building permits applied in the hinterlands at this time.
Well, and I think it's pretty clear in there that our intent is if people want to set up zoning restrictions, they're encouraged to set up their own service areas.
Right. Yeah, that's what's in the charter, I think,
Section 14, I think, addresses.
Yeah, I mean, and
The
it's
charter.
going to be complicated, because I don't even know how you set up a service area according to the charter. If you have to have an election. I know you were on the charter commission, Harold, do you remember?
I honestly don't.
Yeah, I know my wife was on it, and, it's going to be rather cumbersome. Does it include all property owners? Is it just voters? That's not addressed in the charter, because I did check that part, so.
But the charter does speak to setting up like neighborhood advisory
Right.
groups for plating and planning and zoning. So
Right.
there's a mechanism in place for, you don't have to go the service area route necessarily. If a group of people wanted to do something separately, the assembly has the ability to kind of create an ad hoc advisory group to deal specifically with land use issues.
Like if people wanted to do it, let's say the people that live along Metcalf Highway, or
Yeah, just for
everybody-
Papke's like as an area.
Yeah, right,
If that group wanted to get together and the assembly could say, okay, here's who's on that advisory group, and it's up to the assembly to describe what their powers would be or what their role would be. So that's another avenue of getting there too. I mean, it's sort of
I think it's
nation building, and not nation building, but you know what I mean, community building in a way, and how we get there. There's a lot of paths to get there and make sure that there's good public involvement.
As
We're not there yet.
As I recall in Section 14, though, it does specifically spell out that building code enforcement is under service areas.
It could be.
As I remember looking it up, there's a specific thing that says building code enforcement is under service areas and only under service areas. So just for clarification.
I don't think we've talked at all about extending.
Yeah, but it just,
the comp plan.
it's not even talked in the comp.
the comp plan
Yeah.
didn't even address this. I mean, it specifically, all they did was just put a map in there and basically say what the conditions were on the ground as they saw it at the time, and there was a recommendation in there, and, that's the thing that I told the assembly was the comp plan is basically just a document that can sit on the shelf if they so choose. Like past comp plans, I think you more or less pointed that out in your comments, Harold. But it's an outline, it's something that, for you guys to use if the political winds so deem it to be. But I don't think, particularly this soon after the formation of the borough and all the animosity that obviously still exists, that, I think anything that we do as a board or the assembly does as a board should be done with, as much involvement as possible.
Well, and there was a comment yesterday by one of the assembly members, I'm trying to remember who made the comment, that it would, if the people are concerned about the fact that it's just to raise money for the borough, it would cost the borough more money to do anything out there than they would ever possibly raise, so why would they do it? Why would the borough assembly want to do that? So I think hopefully that addresses some of people's concerns out there, that the only reason they would do anything out there is if the people out there ask the borough assembly to bring in zoning or bring in. That was one of the comments that I heard from one of the assembly members yesterday, and I thought it was rather good, so.
I mean, that's basically what we've been talking about
Yeah.
the whole time, is we're not doing anything until,
Yeah.
you know, but I do think we do need sooner than later to do something with Assembly about some sort of major subdivision ordinance. I don't know.
Well, I think the subdivision authority is a good thing to move forward on, because that will prevent, the mental health in the state of Alaska from going in and putting subdivisions together. They've done this a number of times where the lots are so small that they really don't appropriately support a septic treatment system, which then is going to create a nightmare for us down the road and for their neighbors and everything else, which is, we don't want to see that happen.
Well, they're doing it right
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
on Mickoff Highway. I mean,
So-
they're
Yeah.
in the process of doing it.
Yeah,
And they've already announced that
Yeah.
that they're making a best interest finding on it, even though the state hasn't approved the plat yet.
yeah.
So
And how many lots exactly?
17, I think it is.
Yeah.
Harold.
Can I put my 2 bits in?
Sure.
I was on the planning and zoning when we did the zoning ordinance way back when. And similar thing, they, came up with, some consultant group came up with maps, might have been tied in with a comprehensive plan showing existing uses and what's considered industrial and what's considered, mobile, everything. And then a bunch of concerned people came in that heard about it and had their ear to the ground and said, I want my land zone industrial, or I want my land zone single-family mobile home, or all of these things. And there's a bunch of people that were out fishing and here and there and didn't get the word. And then it created kind of a can of worms, and then we have a shortage of industrially zoned land in town now, and probably we also had a shortage of single-family mobile home land. And anyway, I look at everyone in the outlying areas, and most of them, I've seen all the development. Most of the development has taken place in the past so many years outside the city limits, and out in that Papke's area has really grown, and along the Narrows has grown incredibly lots of houses, and people don't want to be told what they can and can't do with their property. And you look at the industrial footprint of Petersburg and fish processing. Is it 10 acres? I mean, this isn't a lot like Bethlehem Steel or something, where there's industrial and there's industrial. And I was looking at one of these zoning maps, and we used to have a mobile dimension mill in my parents' backyard down on Singley Alley, and somebody had carefully marked out that little chunk of land as industrial on that, back in that, and they never had it zoned that, but that's not very industrial. Now, at the meeting yesterday, I've seen a lot of really acrimonious meetings in this building over the years where the irate public comes in, and usually it has to do with people not having adequate notice of what's going on, or the perception that they haven't been informed. And I think some kind of a subdivision ordinance in the outlying areas, I don't think it's beyond the pale. And I don't know what the smallest lots are in the state land disposal areas, but the original state land disposal areas have a 50-foot access easement on the front. They have easements to back lots. I don't know. I think that as I read the Alaska statutes in the administrative code, the university and mental health are subject to those same kind of easement. But I've heard things where they claim not. But if you read the enabling, the Mental Health Act of '93 or whatever, it pretty much says any easement existing or blah blah blah. They're under a lot more restrictions than they acknowledge, and these bureaucracies fight with each other. But anyway, I don't know if there's a lot size minimum, but I haven't seen any really small lots put out by them. But I still don't think that's a bad idea. But last thing I'll say is reading through the comprehensive plan and draft, and in full recognition that these things get printed up, or maybe now, though, I got a copy of it from Liz, had it printed, and I think that's really smart. Print them out if someone comes in, because I was in and got a copy from Leo 10 years ago, and there's a whole stack of them in a room up there that no one ever came and got, so this is good. But generally, once these things are written, they get ignored. I could go into all kinds of stories of where the comprehensive plan was totally ignored. I'm pleased to see you guys using findings of fact in that, because, well, anyway. And going down thinking, maybe we're going to get more organized about this, but I was really surprised when I read through that thing about all the things, zoning this, zoning that. I thought, that's going to go over like a lead balloon out in the country. And language being the tool we use to miscommunicate with one another. I was at the meeting yesterday, and this is the kind of comments that rile up the people. And I just wrote this quickly down. And this was about Papke's, and this was a comment you made, this. We're not going to want something. And then I go, wait a minute. The people out at Papke's are going to tell you what they want. They're not looking to the borough of Petersburg to tell them what you want them to do. They want to know do what they want to do. And if somebody goes out there and builds a McMansion next to somebody's sawmill or mud bog or track or something like that, that's the danger you get into when you move into an unzoned area, and they should be cognizant of that. We had a case where a couple moved in at Papke's by the log dump and started complaining about the stacker sitting there, and it was a huge ruckus over that. And I live by the ball field. It was there when I moved there. So I don't complain about the ball field. I'm not a big baseball fan or anything like that, and it gets noisy and there's parking problems, but you don't hear me complain about it because it was there when I moved there. Now, the other comment was, and it was from you, Chris, we're not going to have building permits until the planning kicks in. Well, when you talk about until it kicks in, that sends a message to all the irate public with their pitchforks and torches that it is going to kick in. So I think that we really need to, I think it's a great idea. Every couple months I get a thing in the mail from the city saying that somebody 6 blocks away from me is going to put in a bay window that is going to reach into their side yard setback, and 99.9% of these things are completely uncontroversial to me. But it is nice to be kept apprised, and I think that if you start talking about that subdivision ordinance, I think that it's a good idea to make a little kind of a letter and send out to every landowner in the outlying areas and say, this is what we have in mind here. We'd appreciate your comments, realize it's not easy for you to come to the meetings, but so the more you put out there to the public, the less the public's going to come storming into the meeting. And that's all I have to say. I'll shut up now.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, my concern is, I think lot size should be addressed by the percolation test and the type, how much land you need to put in a adequate sewer system. That should, if the lots are too small, like the state or whatever want to put in, and it won't pass the percolation test, we're creating nothing but a damn mess.
Well, the other thing that's a real issue around here is the fact that you can have 2 half-acre lots, and one of them has got ground that's decent to be able to handle that, and the other one, because of ravines or whatever, there's very little ground and there's not enough. So it really has to be on a lot-by-lot type
They also
basis.
make the tanks that have the aerator and the ultraviolet lights.
Pretty much from ADEC now, there's very little ground in southeast Alaska
suggestion I say,
to handle a regular perk tank.
on
you know,
the
perk
size
system.
of the lots, that should
Yeah.
regulate it, what the percolation
but you-
test will show.
You still have to have a subsurface discharge field unless you're going to do surface discharge,
And-
and then you get into another whole can of worms.
So that would be told by the
Yeah.
percolation test, so that the sewage is not flooding over onto somebody else's property.
Mm-hmm.
That you have a subdivision with the lots large enough to handle sewage created by that.
And the other thing is, by the way, it's just, I was just on the phone with ADEC this morning, they've changed their system now. They are no longer issuing permits for septic systems. All they're doing is a plan review for single-family and duplexes. So the only time you have to get a permit for single-family and duplexes is if you are discharging into the waters of Alaska. So this is just new change this year. So it's something I think makes it even more important that we are making sure that people have adequate lots to.
Don't have it.
They review.
They review your plans and your engineering, because the system still has to be engineered.
Right.
But, and they'll review the plans, but once they review them in their offices, they're done with it.
They're not gonna inspect
Yeah,
or nothing.
and my other
So-
suggestion was that these lands and these subdivisions and these people want to be able to do what they want. I think that they should be, not fall under our regulation here as, you know, in Zone 1, but they can form a homeowners association or something, that they have their own board and they approve whatever, and everybody that's in that area has agreed, and they make like a homeowners association, what they want to do with their subdivision. The percolation
That is
test
that way,
and
isn't it? As far as having a home, or having a,
I don't know where Menisha's property is. I know our property that on our side isn't.
okay, I understood that part of Papke's had some sort of an agreement between the
I think,
property
I don't
owners,
know.
but.
I think.
I'm not included if it is.
I was gonna say, here's sort of what I've been thinking about, because I think the subdivision issue is
Yeah.
a priority versus the other things in the comp plan, but I was looking at other places, other boroughs, like Matsu, where they have, you know, more urbanish areas and then very remote areas, and how they deal with that. And so they have different standards depending on the type of, where they have road access to the subdivision, whether it's practical to put in a trail or a road or something like that. And then they have different standards based on the type of access that the land has, which makes some sense for around here. Some other communities, to deal with the DEC issue, have language in their subdivision ordinances saying if DEC is not going to review and comment on this subdivision, then the minimum lot size is 1 acre. So basically it says, you know, if you want to have DEC come in and you want to provide them with a plan and they review it and they sign off on it saying, yeah, this will work,
Yeah.
then you could go smaller. But if they're not doing that, then you kind of default to the larger lot size to sort of show that there's going to be enough room there. So that's the couple of things I've been looking at, but you guys can give back feedback and let me know if that's
That sounds good.
reasonable, not reasonable,
Yeah.
or something else.
Could, what do you guys think, and this is for everybody, and you too, Harold, where should we start? 5 acres, 10 acres, 20 acres?
I was going to ask, when you subdivide outside of Service Area 1 now, at what point does the state review your subdivision?
They don't.
Ever?
Really. I don't, when we subdivided, that was back in '96, we just filed the plating, we had Rick come out and survey it, and we filed it.
Because I know they, you know,
Maybe we're
if
supposed
you
to.
do a lot consolidation, the state does that for you. You have to run it through.
Yeah, we sent it, when we did it. I don't know, that's a good question. I don't think people are doing that.
Because someone was in our office looking for, because we can do lot consolidations, minor lot consolidations, just my signature to record them. but I couldn't do that one because it was outside service area 1. But they had gone to the state first, and the state said, oh, you're going to have to survey everything and then come back to us to do the lot consolidation. So that was just 2 lots side by side and eliminating a property line in between.
Well,
And they were going to require that survey.
Yeah, when we did it, we had to survey, the division.
And then they probably
And they accepted that, yeah, because Rick did all that, he'd be the one that asked on that. But I mean, I don't think we're, I don't want to make this.
Go there? Yeah.
No, I don't think we need to make this ordinance apply to somebody that's that wants to subdivide an acre lot.
Right.
I mean, I want this to be for like mainly the university and mental health.
I would just say, just so long as that, whatever they're doing will be able to support, a septic system or whatever on the.
Right, well, and then
Yeah.
also, I just look at the lot lines and how they subdivided those 6 lots, the C-Duck subdivision, the one right above Packers. That's a disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody, you can't even access that realistically. There's the easements were too small in them. I mean, you couldn't even run power to most of those lots. So if you bought 2 lots, you might have been able to develop it, but definitely not the single lot size that they had out. I think,
Yeah. Well, what was it, the 2 lots that sold over on the south side went to the people with the adjoining lots.
Right.
And so that solved that problem, and the borough bought the ones on the north side. But the 2 in the middle, it's like, unless somebody buys both of them.
Well, and what I asked Rick the other day, I didn't ask him what the minimum size was, but he did say it's a lot more expensive for him to do a subdivision with the state because they just have so many hoops to jump through that it ends up costing people more to have him do it with the state, and he would prefer to deal with the borough because it's a little bit less expensive and a simpler process. So
Yeah.
for some folks, it might end up actually saving them time and money if we have the planning authority locally, depending
Yeah.
on when the state kicks in their review. You can ask them.
would it be appropriate to make a motion that we request Liz to work up some sort of ordinance for us by the next meeting dealing with this?
I need more time than that.
No more time than that? This is where we want to go. This is where we go.
I'd like to see some of those questions answered by Rick, though, too.
Okay.
So if you have a chance to chat with him about it.
Yeah, I'll ask them.
Yeah. So.
Well, I'll put it this way, at your earliest convenience.
In your spare time.
But I mean,
No, but it is the thing that I do want to attack first, I guess. Once we get the comp plan approved and, we get that guidance, that is at the top of my list is subdivision.
So do we need the director to do that, or you just want to do it
You want to trust me? I can.
and report back to us?
That's your earliest convenience.
I got the message.
Yeah, but, I mean, what does everybody else think?
Well, I think the ordinance I like the idea of 1 acre, but if I could just say they're all gonna be 1 acre, nobody can have less than 1 acre, that's how it should be out there, but it's
Right.
not.
No.
Yeah.
But I don't like the idea of saying, okay, you can only sell 1 acre lots, but as soon as this guy buys the 1 acre lot, he can subdivide it without having to come back with any kind of
Yeah.
test or anything.
Yeah.
Well, and
So, I mean,
I agree with you there.
Yeah.
But then we're back to the black helicopter thing. And,
Well,
but I mean, that's.
well, that's what I'm saying, how do we do this then that actually makes it fair and equitable?
yeah.
Because if I have 10 acres and I have to sell it to, my brother to make it so I can re-subdivide it into something smaller,
Yeah.
I mean, there's just,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It needs to be something, and maybe it's too soon for us to do this. Too soon.
I don't think it's too soon for us to do the major subdivision. Maybe what you're talking about.
Well,
Private land.
we actually talked about this earlier today because
I mean,
affected this particular
Right,
one
right.
is the definition of a major subdivision is 5 lots or more?
Four,
Four.
more than 4.
More than 4. So, and a minor subdivision is 4 or less. So,
Maybe that'd be a good starting point.
but how do we want to do it? I mean, I'm asking you, Liz, what's...
Yeah, I'll look around and see how other people kind of
Yeah.
draw that line. What I always see is 4
Yeah.
minor,
Yeah.
and that's a simpler process.
And do we want to put in there something about minimum lot size, or do we want to put that out as a, you know, I don't know, do we want to, my biggest concern is going smaller than probably about a half an acre lot. You're making it very difficult to put any sort of septic in there, and it doesn't make any sense to do that. And if we don't have some, okay, you can't subdivide it anymore, there's really no stopping people going and pushing it down to a point where they've got lots that aren't developable. And, you know, that doesn't really make any sort of sense.
Well, then you also have to figure, a lot of people might use this for, not for habitation, you know, they might just use this to store junk on. Or they might use it for commercial use.
But do we want to set a precedent of having lots that small out there, that even if somebody's storing junk on them now, 10 years down the road, somebody wants to buy it and build a cabin on there, and it's too small to put a septic system on, and then you're going to have a whole, another big nightmare to deal with. So, yes.
You know, it might be interesting to get your hands on the mental health, trust land office, and the universities and the DNR's standards for subdivisions. Because back in the 70s, when they were talking about, we've got to make land available for residents, it was this huge issue, and they, you know, to subdivide, and one of the things that came up even then was the idea of workable septic systems and having big enough lot sizes. And all over the state, there's these land disposals, like Slana was a famous one. They called them Slanamanders, and you know, this kind of swampy land out in the up there on the whatever the heck Glen Highway, I guess it is, and that were terrible places to have septic systems. But you know, in Southeast, a lot of most of the lots that are been developed are waterfront, and it's somewhat simpler because they allowed marine discharge. I know it's been a long time since I went through this thing, but we went the simple route with a hand pump for the sink and a sealed vault privy and all that. But going through Point Frederick East subdivision, went through all this stuff that says you got to have your DEC permit before you can get a building permit and so on. Presumably everyone did that, but just to show you what kind of a joke that the DEC's thing was, I drew up a plan for my wastewater system, got it approved. So my next door neighbor, she says, could you help me? I got to fill this out so I can get my thing. So I drew up a thing for her. She sent it off to him. Nothing doing, you know. Well, meanwhile, she'd given it to her next door neighbor, who was in the same boat, and so that lady sent this thing off, and or maybe it was yet another place over, and around the corner, yeah. Anyway, she sent off this thing that didn't even apply to her lot, anything like that, and they approved that one. So, you know, so the fact that they're not reviewing this stuff anymore. You know.
Well, basically what they're saying now is you have to have engineered plans. They'll review the plans, but they're not going to inspect the system.
Yeah, I think that's going to be worse now too with the constrained state resources. They'll probably have one DEC person for the entire state reviewing everything, so.
So it'll come back to the mountains being high and the king far away.
Currently for Southeast Alaska, there are 3 people doing the work. I've chatted with one of them this morning. There's one person who does surface discharge into the waters permits, and then there's two people who do the plan reviews for the subsurface discharge systems, so.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. We're done.
If we're done with discussion,
I don't know.
are we done with discussion? All right. Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're out of order.